Have you ever been in a position where you had to move a tree, where you had to transplant a tree? Why would you ever want to move a tree to a different location? Maybe there's better soil in a new place. Maybe there's better sunlight. You're not competing with other trees that are surrounding that tree at that place. Maybe it's outgrown its area and it needs to move to a new area where it can grow more. What are the chances that a tree would survive a transplant? You know, I think the chances are better if you're able to dig around the tree and dig out most of those roots, making a huge root ball, and to be able to transfer that tree with the roots to a new location. I would think too, younger trees do better, but all trees, if you watch, uh, they go through transplant shock after being moved. And it has to do with a lot of their roots they use to supply their nutrients were cut in the move. And so they go through this shock. You can see their leaves curl up, maybe in some cases turn yellow. But it can take up to a year for each inch of diameter of the trunk to recover. So if you have a 3-inch diameter trunk on a tree, it could take up to 3 years before that tree grows out of that shock or regrows the roots that it once had. Are people like trees in some cases? Do some people get so locked into a way of thinking or their surroundings that they can't or they won't make a change? Or if it's forced upon them, it's almost like they die inside. They go into this shock. They've been removed from their surroundings, they've been removed from what's familiar. If you confine yourself to a box, you won't be able to continue to grow. If you stop growing mentally, you'll eventually die. I know that's one of the big things they tell senior citizens. You've got to continue to use your brain. We stop growing physically, of course, but we should never stop growing mentally or spiritually. We need the growth. We need progress. We need improvement. You know, I've felt some of that shock, that transplant shock. Looking back, I had been at a small credit union for over 20 years. And after about 22 years, I knew it was time for something new. I wasn't getting, as a family, we were not getting the benefits that we needed. I had maxed out all of the growth potential in that position. I felt like I was dying. There was no more growth. And the environment was one that the board of directors were very happy with the status quo. They wanted little, if not any growth with assets. Some days the phone would hardly ring and it was slow. I mean, I would go through all of my responsibilities. At that time I was in charge of back office balancing and government reporting and collections and mortgage loans and all of these things. I would get through all of those tasks and then sit idle sometimes for a good portion of the day. And it was like I was dying. I was regressing. I needed something new. I needed a challenge, something to push me, something to help me grow again. And during that time, uh, it's not the job's fault. I could have spent more time being proactive, but the environment was one of we're happy the way it is. So it was during this that I found a new job, and then the challenges started. The change is hard. Pain, challenge, and growth go together. Facing the unknown is hard. I think I wanted to, in some days, wanted to be back in cruise control. I wanted what was easy. I wanted what was, but on the other hand, I wanted what was best. I wanted that growth. Even though I knew it this growth was very difficult, and I wanted to go back to the previous job, and but it wasn't what I needed. The growth, even though it was very difficult, is what I needed. So as I started this new job, I had feelings, a lot of fear. I didn't know anybody. I was put in this position of leadership, and then the voices started. You're not good enough. They'll find out you don't know anything. You're going to screw up. You're going to look like an idiot. They're going to hate you. Um, maybe get fired. You should have just stayed where you're at. All of those negative voices. And during all of this challenge of adapting, being transplanted into this new job, I had feelings of I missed the people my previous job. It felt like I was getting divorced. So during all these feelings, some days, yeah, I wanted to go back. Wanted to go back to what was easy. Wanted to go back to what was comfortable. But I remembered, I had to remember why I made that decision and the reason I made that decision. And I had to stick to that decision. Of course, there's other stress. I had stress of learning their new systems, learning their new processes, and making new friends. The other big thing that I was fearful of was standing in front of other people and talking, standing as an authority, afraid to make a mistake. I was responsible in part for training the staff that was underneath me. I was responsible for reporting all of the lending activities to the board of directors monthly. I had to attend executive meetings with other managers. It was a huge, huge responsibility. So what did I want to do? Some days I wanted to stay home. I wanted to sleep in. I wanted to call in sick. What did I have to do? I knew what I had to do. I had to continue down the road I'd started because in the end, it was the best thing for me. Even though my feelings told me to quit and to go back to the other job, it was too hard. I couldn't do it. Don't listen to your feelings. Remember, pain, challenge, and growth all go together. So remove those negative voices from your life. You know what you need to do, and you can do hard things. Focus on improvement. I said one of the big fears I had was standing in front of people and talking. It's funny, I could talk to at a pulpit, talk to 100 people, 200 people, it was no problem. But for some reason, smaller groups, when they're in your face and more intimate, I didn't like that as much. Anyway, so in order to conquer that, I started going to these Toastmasters meetings, and they were a tremendous, very helpful group. If you haven't looked at, understand what that is, look it up on the internet. It's a group that gets together as business professionals and where you prepare and deliver speeches. And then you have people that evaluate your speeches. You also get a chance to evaluate their speeches. You conduct their meetings. You take turns doing that. Big part of the meeting too is these table topic section where you'd stand in front of the group and they would give you an impromptu speech. They'd say, talk about X for 3 minutes. If you were some sort of animal or if you were a criminal, why would you be that criminal? What criminal would you be and why? Just crazy things. And you'd have to stand there for 3 minutes and talk about, just whatever came to mind. And it made you think, made you be able to feel more comfortable thinking on your feet. So I continued going to these group meetings until it became much easier. And I got comfortable, got too comfortable with that group. It became easier. I've listened to my niece as she talked about, this is coming from her dad, talk about the stress she had at school and the tests and the projects and presenting, and that she wanted to get on some sort of medication that was just too hard. She wanted to run from it. Don't run from your fears. Turn around and tackle them, run straight into them. Don't be cowardly. Be courageous. You can do this. You can do hard things.